If you're a busy dad and you're trying to lose some weight and you happen to stumble upon this video, then you are in luck. Because I'm going to be sharing with you 5 of the best tips when it comes to losing anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds of fat all within the next 12 weeks. And the best part is, you don't need a diet. You don't even need to go to the gym, in fact. Like, these 5 tips are going to help you out. And the reason why I can confidently say that is because these are the same 5 tips that help Chris lose 25 pounds of fat all within 12 weeks and get 6-pack abs. Same tips that help Ryan lose 25 pounds of fat and get off his cholesterol medications. They help Greg lose 30 pounds and get off his blood pressure medications. They help Davis lose 35 pounds. They even help Santo lose 50 pounds of fat all within 12 weeks. So they're going to help you out as well. I can promise you that. Now, tip number 1 is you need the right game plan to follow. And, in terms of these tips, we're going to break down everything. We're going to break down workouts. We're going to break down nutrition. We're going to break down the right mindset. We're going to break down what you should be doing in terms of cardio, recover, everything. So pay close attention. In fact, I like to say this, go grab a pen, go grab a piece of paper. Because if you're trying to get in the best shape of your life and lose anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds of fat all within the next 12 weeks without going to the gym, without dieting, pay attention. Because these are the 5 tips that you need to understand. All right? With that being said, tip number 1, have the right game plan to follow. Specifically, let's talk about training, your workouts. Okay, remember, you don't need to go to the gym. In fact, like working out at home, it's very convenient. Especially if you're somebody that's, let's just say, hey, you got some little ones and maybe you're also, career driven, busy dad as well. You're banging out 40, 50, maybe even 60 hours a week. Try going to the gym on top of that, right? You have your kids at home and on top of that working 50 hours a week. That's hard, right? But you know what you can do? You can easily, get 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes max 3 times a week, a workout in. Some of our best coaching clients, the ones that I already kind of shared with you before in the past, like these guys, they don't live in the gym. They don't work out every single day, and neither should you. You're going to learn this the more that we progress through these 5 tips that, less equals more, and you need to recover properly. If let's say you're constantly, crushing it in the gym or killing yourself with these burpees and backflips and you're not recovering properly and you're on top, stressed out, let's just say with everything at home and everything at work, and on top of that, now your body's stressed out, you're never going to see the results that you want, right? Recovery is so important. So the first tip that you need to follow, if you want to lose anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds of fat all within the next 12 weeks, is simply give yourself a plan, right? And maybe that's doing some push-ups. Maybe that's getting some dumbbells. Maybe that's getting some kettlebells. And find whatever is going to work for you and your schedule. So maybe that's 3 workouts a week. Shoot, maybe that's only 2 workouts a week. Maybe that's 4, maybe that's 5. But give yourself a plan that you know for a fact, as long as you have the right systems in place, and then it might be just you setting an alarm to wake up earlier, or you have an alarm that, hey, as soon as you get home from work, before you do anything, go home, kiss your spouse, kiss the kids, but then immediately, you're going to the garage or you're going to the basement. You're going to start getting this quick 15, 20-minute workout. Whatever it is that you need to do it. But you got to give yourself a plan to follow. Because if there's no plan, it's going to be very hard for you to have success. Now, speaking about plan, right? You also probably wondering, Joe, what about cardio? I get it, right? Doing some push-ups, doing some dumbbells, doing some, stuff with the kettlebells. Like, that's great. But shouldn't I also be, focusing on cardio? And this is one of the biggest myths that a lot of guys think that they need. It's like, oh, I got to be running. I got to do all this cardio. The reality is, all the results that you're going to get is with nutrition. We're going to talk about that next here a little bit. But as far as cardio, this is actually tip number 2, and it's to focus on NEAT. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And think about this as you just moving. That could be you moving at work, right? Maybe you're taking the stairs, right, rather than the escalator or the elevator. Maybe it's you parking farther away, rather than trying to be the first parking spot right there at work, or just deciding to, hey, play with your kids when you come home from work, whatever the case may be, right? But moving your body is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Don't overcomplicate it, right? You're doing the dishes, you're moving your body, right? You're cutting the grass, you're moving your body. Just move your body however you can, right? Either you're tracking on your phone or you're tracking on a little smartwatch, right? Which could be very inexpensive. Just go to Amazon, type in fitness tracker watch. You can find one for literally $5. But I recommend starting to track your steps. Because at the end of the day, if you're not tracking maybe, on paper your workouts, or maybe your steps or your hydration, or let's say your protein, you're just going to think you're going to get the results that you want. But you got to make sure there's actual key things to measure here to make sure you're actually on the right track right? You're actually on the right course to having success at reaching your goals. So download an app for free. Go to Amazon, buy a $5 fitness watch. It ain't that expensive, all right? But you want to make sure that you're tracking your steps. How many steps? Well, it's going to be completely up to you. Because if let's just say you're somebody that is only moving your body maybe 2,000 steps a day, which is not a lot, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew and start tracking and aiming for 10,000 steps. Start small, right? Like, I get it. We live in this Amazon world type of age where we can get everything to our doorstep tomorrow. You can't get that way when it comes to losing body fat, right? You got to have patience. You got to have the right mindset. So don't go from 2,000 steps to 10,000 steps overnight. Maybe make that very first week going from 2,000 steps to 3,000 steps. And then afterwards, 3,000 steps to 4,000 steps. Once again, we can't make these shortcuts and try to rush the process and lose all the body fat overnight. You didn't get fat overnight, so don't expect to lose it overnight. It doesn't work that way in the system. And the reality is, if you try to make any kind of shortcuts happen when it comes to losing body fat, all you're going to be doing is just shooting yourself in the foot, because you're just going to regain it eventually right back if it's not sustainable for you. That's why, once again, you got to make sure you're practicing patience and you're doing the right things in order to be successful at losing the weight and keeping it off. There's nothing worse than cutting out your carbohydrates or doing endless amounts of cardio or working out, 6 days a week for 2 hours. And we see this all the time with a New Year's resolution. What happens? Guys fall off track typically by March. They regain all that weight right back. They get discouraged. They say, boo-hoo, cry me a river. Nothing seems to work for me. It's like, no, you're just stupid. You're doing all the wrong things that don't work. Like, just literally focus on keeping it simple, stupid. And I promise you're going to have way better success when it comes to losing fat and actually keeping it off. It ain't hard. It ain't rocket science. All right? With that being said, let's get into tip number 3, right? And that is making sure that you're tracking your calories and your macros, okay? Now, specifically for macros, we're not going to break everything down and go into proteins, carbs, and fats. I just want you tracking your protein, okay? Focus on staying within a calorie deficit, right? You can't expect to lose body fat if you're not in a calorie deficit, okay? And all you need to focus on is making sure that you're eating plenty of protein and staying within that calorie deficit. Now, there's going to be 2 types of people that's going to watch this, right? And they're going to listen to this and going to say, that sounds hard. That sounds complicated. Well, guess what? I bet you anything that if it was a priority to you, you would do it. Because if you had type 2 diabetes, and if I told you that you just needed to download an app and start tracking your food, and you would reverse your type 2 diabetes, like it's that simple, you would do it if your health is a priority to you. Now, if you're somebody that's like, oh, I don't want to track my food, and that takes time, bro. Congratulations. That's why you have man boobs, and that's why you have high blood pressure, and that's why you have the muffin top. Because you're trying to make shortcuts, right? And once again, when it comes to your body, when it comes to your health, you can make all the shortcuts you want. You're just going to make it 10 times harder for you down the road because you're never going to be successful when it comes to looking and feeling a certain way. Now, if you want to be on the fast track for actually losing body fat and not losing your muscle, and actually, right, getting the results that you want, I highly recommend track your calories and your protein. It ain't that hard. And in case you're wondering, like, hey, how do I do all this, right? Like, make it simple for yourself, okay? If let's just say you never tracked anything before, start with just tracking everything, right? Whatever you put in your body, just track, just to get the understanding and then bring in awareness. What are you actually eating? Now, when it comes to staying within a calorie deficit, just take your body weight, multiply it by 10, 11, or 12. If you're somebody that is, let's say, very sedentary, like you're walking maybe 2,000 steps a day, like sedentary job, sedentary at home, yeah, multiply it by 10. If you're somebody that's pretty active, you're already working out, you're already, pretty, active at work also, multiply it by 12. That's going to give you a good range for your calorie deficit to be in. And protein, keep it simple. Take your body weight, multiply by 1. So if you weigh 185 pounds, eat 185 grams of protein. If you weigh, let's say, 250 pounds, have 250 grams of protein, right? Like, keep it to where you want to be, just 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So that way, you can actually focus on losing body fat and not losing the muscle. And I get it, you're going to feel full, you're going to feel bloated, you're going to be like, man, I'm eating all this food. That's just because you have a slow metabolism. That's why your body cannot metabolize, right, that protein as fast and efficient enough. And that's why you feel full. That's why you feel bloated, because you're actually eating how you should be for your body type. But if, let's say, you're not used to that, then guess what? Yeah, you're going to be feeling full. You're going to be feeling bloated. And this is why, once again, you shouldn't take shortcuts. and do the fads and do the intermittent fasting and not eating certain macronutrients because you're just going to end up hurting yourself. I digress. All right. Tip number 4, and this is very important, so pay close attention, is to making sure that you're monitoring your stress levels. Okay. Now we're going to just categorize this as recovery. Okay. Because recovery could be not overtraining. It could be eating properly. It could be proper hydration, active recovery. Recovery could also be making sure that you're sleeping enough, But regardless, you want to make sure that your recovery is in check where you're not spiking your cortisol levels. So if let's just say, I'm going to give you a bunch of different analogies here. If let's just say you are in the gym constantly, right? And you're not seeing the best results. You feel like you've been doing the same old sauna dance and workouts for the longest and you're not seeing results. Odds are maybe you're doing too much, right? You're not actually recovering properly. You're not eating it properly to where your body can actually start losing fat, right? Instead, it's just beat up, it's broken, you're constantly going through the motions at the gym, not hydrating yourself properly, not eating properly enough, and you're spiking your cortisol levels, making it hard for you. Or maybe you're on the category of, let's say you're stressed out with, work or stuff that's going on at home, or maybe you have an injury or travels a lot, whatever the case may be, right? Like there's always going to be certain things in your life that's curveballs being thrown your way that's going to spike your cortisol. Whatever that is for you, you need to make sure that you are monitoring and managing that stress. Certain things for stress, that could be just take some time off from the gym. Certain things for stress, that could be just eating properly, right, to help your body actually recover. It could be drinking more water. It could be sleeping more. It could be moving your body more. Okay, these are all things that help lower the stress. And it could also just be talking to somebody. I know with a lot of guys, right, especially dads, we hold a lot of pressure in. Right? And certain things we don't want to talk about. We don't want to, get off our chest. But I'll be the first one to tell you, like the minute that you open up your skeletons in the closet and just talk and get stuff off your chest, it's like what my pastor always says, a problem shared is a problem cut in half. So I highly recommend whatever you got to do to help you lower your stress, because once you start doing that and you're not spiking your cortisol levels so much, I promise you, you will start losing body fat ASAP. In fact, this is probably one of the best key tips as far as this whole entire list goes, just to show you the importance. Okay, last and final tip, okay? You need to make sure that you have the right forms of accountability or support or structure in place to help you actually be successful. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're somebody that doesn't have a coach, okay, maybe that's setting alarms on your phone. If let's just say you don't have a workout partner or people in your corner to support you and encourage you, like these things could be hard. And this is why it's so important to surround yourself with the right group of people. Like if you're not going to the gym, odds are you don't have your gym colleagues and buddies. So maybe find a friend on Facebook, maybe find somebody at work that just says like, hey, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start eating better. Would you just hold me accountable, making sure that I'm actually sticking with this and I'm not going to give up? Like it could be as simple as that. And remember, for guys, we got to just push that ego, push that pride to the side and just ask that, right? But you need to have whatever SOP, right, your standard operating procedure in place to making sure that you're actually doing what you need to do to be successful. I mean, you might be listening to this right now and you might be like, Joe, I know all this stuff. Hey, that's great that you know all this stuff. Why are you still fat and out of shape though? Like, ask yourself that question. You might know, hey, you should work out. You might know you should drink water, right? This ain't rocket science. You might know, hey, you should be in a calorie deficit. You might know you should eat plenty of protein. You might know you should move your body more and not be so stressed out. But why do you still have the man boobs? Why are you still fat and out of shape? Why are you still lazy and not doing these things? Maybe it's because you need the right people in your corner holding you accountable and supporting you for you actually doing that. So that way you can actually get the results. But yet you can continue to tell yourself, hey, I don't need support. I don't need people in my corner. I'm this lone wolf. Guess what? That's not going to get you to your goals. So you could be right and have this lone wolf mentality, but the reality is you're going to be fat, lazy, and probably highly medicated one day, right? Or you could be somebody that's willing to push the pride and the ego, because that's all the lone wolf is, to the side and say, you know what? Like, maybe I do need people to actually coach me and hold me accountable. Maybe I do need people to show me my blind spots because I don't know where I'm messing up at. I keep on eating like this. I keep on doing these workouts, but I'm not seeing results. Maybe I need somebody to show me my blind spots. Maybe you just need support and guidance because every time you travel, right, or you go out to eat with your family, like you splurge. You don't know how to fit in your favorite foods. And so you go AWOL and then you get discouraged and beat yourself up about it the next day. You feel guilty. You try to outdo everything. And then it's just the same old song and dance. Lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, because you never really established, right, having a healthy relationship with food or training. Whatever it is, you got to make sure to have the right people in your corner helping you, or the right standard operating procedures in your corner, making sure that you're on the right track. Because if there's one thing in life that's certain, it's that wherever you're going, you will eventually get there. Now, the thing that I want to ask you this is, if you know where you're trying to get to, what has always made you stop before in the past? Was that because the diet you were following wasn't sustainable? Well, then don't do it again. Was that because the workout program that you're following wasn't sustainable? Well, then don't do that again. Maybe you didn't have the right people in your corner holding you accountable. Well, then find the right people to hold you accountable. This isn't rocket science, once again. These are just 5 practical, easy things that you can do to literally just start losing body fat, putting on that lean muscle tissue, helping you lose anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds of fat all within the next 12 weeks without even going to the gym or dieting. Like, we talked about calories, we talked about protein. Like, hit your calorie goal, eat plenty of protein, all those excess calories for carbs and fats, have whatever you want. Have a cheeseburger, have some beer. That's what guys like Santo did. You can still lose body fat. It's that simple. Just obviously, once again, maybe you need the right people holding you accountable to make sure you're actually staying within that limit and you're not splurging and going over. Maybe you need some people just taking out all the guesswork, make it easy for you. And if that's something that maybe you need, hey, click on the link down below. There's some resources in there to help you out. But guys, I hope that you just got some value. And within anything, right, this has just helped encourage you and inspire you to just move your body more, right? Start taking responsibility for your own actions, take ownership, and once again, to lead by example, because that's what it's all about. You don't need to be a gym rat. You don't need to be a bodybuilder and, eat out of Tupperware containers, right? And meal prep and all that stuff. You can still eat with your family. You can still move your body. You can still have a great life where you're not obsessed with working out and obsessed with, nutrition. But this go around, you're actually doing it for your body where it's sustainable. Not obsessed, sustainable. Something a little bit different where you're actually feeling better. You're actually looking better. And once again, you're being that role model that maybe your kids need and deserve. So hopefully this video has inspired you. If it did, definitely give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your biggest takeaway. And also at the very end of this video, I'm going to have somewhere on YouTube where you can just click on the video and it's going to be sharing with you just the best workouts, in my opinion, when it comes to getting in shape, literally right at home, without going to the gym, right? And without investing a whole lot of time. We're talking some of the best workouts all within underneath 30 minutes. Definitely check that out. It also shows you a little behind the scenes of what our coaching app is really capable of when it comes to you becoming the best version of yourself physically and mentally. Guys, this has been Joe Callari with Heartletics.com, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.